make it. Wonderful, wonderful. I was just telling everyone, I was just telling everybody that you have such an amazing testimony. And that's one of the things that this platform is for here on Hope Define Me, is God started this platform called Testimony Tuesday, where he wanted people's testimonies heard because so many people have so many testimonies. And we all go through everything that we walk through in life because God will put people in our path that we are going to be able to help along the way because they end up going through the same things we went through. And that's what this is about, right? So I want to just introduce you guys tonight to my dear, wonderful friend, Karen Richard, who I've known for, oh my goodness, Karen, I feel like it's been like 10 years. Has it been?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. We attend the same church, Calvary Chapel Worship Center here in Newport Richey, Florida. And she is one of the leaders there at Calvary Chapel, as well as one of the women's leaders with me on Tuesday mornings in the women's group there. And she just, I didn't even ask you, where are you from, Karen? Where were you born?
Youngstown, Ohio.
How about that? Oh my goodness, I didn't even know that. So she's from Youngstown, Ohio. And she is, let me tell you one thing about Karen. One of the things I love about her is she is bold. That woman, you are bold. And I love that. You know, she doesn't sugarcoat. You will never know. You'll never have to guess how you stand with Karen because she's straight up. And it's always done with love. And she never gives an opinion that's not backed up with scripture. And that's one of the things I love about her. Her boldness is, I aspire to be as bold as she is. Karen.
Love you, Val.
Oh, I love you. Thank you for joining us. So I was, kind of giving a little tidbit about being unequally yoked. And so tell me all about how did you and Dale meet? When did you meet?
Okay, we met back in 1968, September 27th, my 18th birthday. My high school was playing his high school in football, and he was actually sitting behind me in the stands. So afterwards, he asked me to go to the dance the school was having, and I went, and I never seen him again after that.
Oh my goodness.
So in February of '69, my school was playing his school again in basketball. So we started dating, and we graduated high school in June of '69, and he left for Vietnam in July.
Oh, wow.
He was in the Navy, yes. So I waited for him for 2 years. He got out in April of '71. We got engaged, and then we got married in April of '72. So it'll be 51 years in April.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. That is a beautiful story. And how kind of you and good of you to wait for 2 years.
Yes, I did. I definitely waited for him.
Okay, so then you got married, and then you left Ohio, I guess, and then what happened?
Yes, we got married in a Catholic church. I was Catholic, he was Lutheran. I had no idea he didn't believe in God. He agreed to raise our children Catholic, and never had any inkling he did not believe in God. So we came down here in 1973, which is 50 years this month. And he always went to church with me. He never had a problem going to church until I attended a Joyce Meyer conference on January 21st of 2001 in Orlando. I did not tell him I was going to a Joyce Meyer conference. I told him I was going to visit a friend that my girlfriend's mom lived in Winter Park. So he just thought I was going to visit with my girlfriend's mom. And when I got home, he took one look at me and said, "Oh my gosh, don't even tell me you're one of them Jesus freaks." And that's when the whole thing started.
Oh my goodness. And you were married
after that.
How long between you were married and then how many years between that and when in 2001?
Almost like 30 years.
Oh, wow.
Because I got married in '72 and didn't get saved till 2001.
Oh, wow.
Like almost 30, yes.
Okay. My goodness. So 30 years. So life was moving along as normal for 30 years, right? Were you going to the church or mass and things like that?
Well, back then I was still Catholic, and no, I was not going to the Catholic church. And my girlfriend that introduced me to Joyce told me about First United Methodists up here in Hudson. He came to church with me from all that time, even when we were Catholic. He always came to church, never had a problem with it. And in 2013, I left First United to come to Calvary. And when I came to Calvary, he still came with me for 2 years, all of 13, all of 14. And then in 2015, I believe he was starting to get convicted.
Oh,
And the enemy was saying to him, you really need to get out of here. So one day, Pastor Strayer called leaders to come down to the front. I went down to the front. Back then, I wasn't a leader, I was an usher. So I had gone down to front to help, women with women, men with men, and I was helping them direct. And when we got out to the car, he says to me, if you ever do that again, I will not come back to church with you. And I knew what he meant, but I says, what do you mean? Do what? And he said, if you ever get up and go down to the altar again, I'm not coming back. And very calmly, I said, that is totally your decision. Whatever you feel you need to do, that's fine. But I will definitely be going back to church. That did not deter me.
oh.
So I guess what he wanted me to say was, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I will never do that again. But no, because no, I will not compromise my beliefs in God. I won't do it.
Mm-hmm. I know
So
you.
since then, he has not been back.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Not even, that's a shame. And how is it, how is it under the roof? That's just something you guys agree to disagree on and life goes on?
Well, no. I do try to talk to him about God. I do tell him there is a God because we're responsible to plant the seed. We're not responsible for their salvation.
Right.
So I do plant the seed. I do try to show him the light. But the closer I get to the Lord, the more, if I'm going ahead 2 steps, he's going to bring me back 3.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very difficult. I would not recommend anybody to be unequally yoked because you have nothing in common as far as your beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
He's an atheist. So you can't mix light with darkness.
Right. Now let me ask, just those that are watching, explain to them the difference between an atheist and an agnostic.
Okay. An agnostic doubts, an atheist denies.
Okay.
And the Lord showed me there's no such thing as an agnostic because he showed me a vision of a pregnancy test. He said that's either going to come up with a plus or a minus. There's never a question mark on a pregnancy test.
Mm-hmm.
So either you believe or you don't. Either you're for the Lord or you're against the Lord. An atheist totally denies. He believes in creation. He doesn't believe in the creator.
Okay. So if he believes in creation, how do they feel creation got there? I'm just asking.
He just believes in a higher being. Like there's definitely a higher being, but he does not believe in God. He does not believe there is a God. He doesn't believe in heaven. He doesn't believe in hell.
Wow.
And I always say, if you're not coming to heaven with me, I'm not going to hell with you. I mean, how else do you explain that to somebody? There is a God, and he does not want any part of it. So I just live day by day.
That's amazing. That's for me, I guess hearing this, I think to myself, if you believe that there's a creator, like there's a higher being that made, people and birds and flowers and trees, made that, but yet you don't believe there's a God. I for me can't get my brain around that. And I'm trying to see like how do they approach that angle? Is that they all a higher being, like I don't know, like an alien or no, like I don't even know.
I don't know how to explain it. He never explains it to me. He just says he doesn't believe in heaven. He does not believe in hell. He believes when you die, you would just be buried. He calls it dirt nap.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he calls that dirt nap, and that he doesn't. So I always say to him, I would rather believe there is a God and then to find out when I get up there, there's not, than to believe there's not and find out there is.
Exactly.
Because I've had a good life. Either way, I've had a good life. So I know there is a God. I mean, how can you not know it?
I know. I know it.
You know, I can't explain it.
I
But
know.
I would not advise anybody who's listening to me right now, if you are in a relationship with a non-believer and you are truly on fire for the Lord, only God can change people. But if somebody says to you, oh, I'll go to church with you, you know, I believe there's a God. After you get married, you're not going to change that person. I mean, you cannot change somebody. Only God can change people. I mean, you can pray for the people.
Right.
I pray for him every day,
Right.
but
Right.
I'm responsible to plant the seed. I'm not responsible for his salvation.
Right.
And the enemy wants me to believe that I am, but I'm not.
Exactly. And so when you plant the seed, and really that's all you can do, and live the light and be the light, and and show Jesus to other people, your husband, your spouse, but other people too.
Right.
And you're exactly right, because it's kind of like, if I'm right or wrong,
Right.
if I believe and I'm right, yay. If I'm wrong, okay, but I believed and I had a good life and I had peace and I had joy. But
Right.
if you don't believe and you're wrong, boo. But what if I'm right? Oh, you don't get to change your mind. So
Right. You cannot change your mind.
there's like no way back on that one. And that's just such an interesting thing. I don't quite understand, with all the beauty that's around us and babies being born and things like that, how you don't believe. But there are people that don't. And I mean, and I know
Absolutely.
I know other people that don't either. And one of the things you mentioned that's really important is that only God can change people. However, people got to want to change.
Oh, absolutely.
They have to have an open heart to say, you know what, maybe Karen's right. Like, I don't want to give her, like, make her feel good like she got into me or anything, but maybe she's right, and that's just it. And then, and really, you and I both want to encourage people, if you're just still questioning, reach out to Karen, reach out to me, or reach out to somebody, because there's answers out there, and there's so much. I think one of the most beautiful things about being a Christ follower is the peace and the joy that we have, even though troubles come and tribulations come,
Yes.
and you were so right and wise in warning people that are currently in a situation where they're unequally yoked. It's as good as it gets. If you ever saw the movie, this is as good as it gets.
Right.
It get better when you get married. It's just as good as it gets. Are you happy with where it is right now? Because people don't change. Women, we think men are people, we can change them. I don't know why.
No, you cannot change somebody. Only God can change people. Like I said, I've been married to him for 51 years. I cannot change people. I can't. I can just show him the light. We are the salt of the earth.
Right.
We are the salt.
Right.
We are the light. And sometimes our light irritates their demons.
Yeah.
They don't like the light. So it will irritate him. Like I have to watch everything I say. I cannot say anything that's going to like upset him. Like I said, oh, thank you, God, or thank you for finding me this awesome parking spot. He'll say to me, there is no God. Why are you thanking God? So I'm trying to show him that there is a God, and he does want to bless his children. So I thank him every chance I get.
Yeah.
But then again, you always have to look for the positive in people, because everybody has a good side. He's a good provider. He always provided for me and my daughter. He's a good man. He just doesn't believe there's a God. So when you're unequally yoked, what do we have? We're the light. What do we have with the darkness?
Right.
Just to keep our light shining.
Keep
your candles burning.
Yes. And so with him having a hard heart in that scenario, which is a heart of stone, is there any part, do you see a glimmer of light there, a glimmer of hope that maybe there's a crack there in that armor?
Well, you always have to believe there's hope. I mean, I believe that every day. My prayer is that somebody will come in his path that he will listen to.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's not going to listen to me.
Yeah.
So I plant the seed, somebody else comes along and waters it, and then only God can actually get him to come to him. You know, we've all come to God that way.
Mm-hmm.
God chose us,
Mm-hmm.
right? He chose us.
Right. And for, and he probably chose Dale too. And Dale's being stubborn right now, not hearing it at
He's
all.
not here. Well, he's got the scales on his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
You got to remove those scales, the hard heart.
The hard heart and the illusion that the enemy likes to paint, sadly, that
Yes.
we tune into. You know, I think, tell me if you feel this way or not, but sometimes I feel like that so many people or several people in the world feel like, oh, well, if there was a God, you know, why is there so much heartache and hardship in the world? And why is there, you know, well, if there was a God, why would this happen or that happen? And it can kind of sour a person's view on, well, if there was a God, this wouldn't happen. It would be all a bed of roses. Well, that he's never promised that. What is your response to that?
Well, that's what he says to me. If there really is a God, why are so many children and babies suffering?
Mm.
So I say to him, wrong choices lead to regret. Maybe their parents made wrong choices for them. We all have free will.
Free will.
God does not want anyone to suffer. He doesn't want anyone to go to hell. He doesn't want anyone to perish. But you have to open your heart to him. Nowhere in the Bible does it say we're not going to have any heartaches.
Right.
Nowhere in the Bible. As a matter of fact, it says, pick up your cross and follow me.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't, when you're a Christian, that doesn't mean that you're going to be just going along, floating around on a hallelujah cloud. Right? I mean, that's not the way it works.
Right.
Matter of fact, is it Ephesians 4:2 that says long suffering? He'll bring you down to bring you up.
Right. Right.
Some people have to hit rock bottom to come back up.
And that's, I tell you what, a lot of people find Jesus rock bottom when they got nowhere to go, you know.
Exactly.
And some people are that type of personality. They've got to hit rock bottom when they've got nothing else. And then they're like, okay, fine. Have your way.
Exactly. Because a lot of people just have a lot of pride.
Yes.
And it's, you know, what about me? What about me? It's all about me. Like his theory is God didn't do this. I woke myself up every day and went to work. He doesn't understand. No, God gave you that strength. Mm-hmm. But see, when you don't believe in God, it's all about them. Isn't that what happened to Lucifer?
Mm-hmm, that's true. And I think it's in Deuteronomy 18:8 where it says that God gives you the ability to make money. God gives you the ability to have a job and work and to have the wits about you to make money. All that is God-given talent, you know, and some people utilize it. Some use it for good. Some get lazy, don't use it at all, and some don't use it for good. But it says right in there that that is something that God gives us. Just that, you know, the Lord takes, he gives, he takes away. Everything we have comes from the Lord, you know, from the favor to the home and the car we drive and to the food we eat, we have it. And at any moment it can be gone. Anyone reads the Bible, it can be gone. Many people have suffered with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So being a Christian doesn't keep you from trouble.
No.
No. It just helps you get through it. Because you have to keep your eyes focused on him. It's not about us. So if you keep your eyes focused on the Lord, you have to have faith. You can't quiver. I'm not going to tell you it's easy being married to an atheist, but I know that God's keeping me here. Now, some people may say, well, you know, I'm in that kind of a marriage. Do I stay or do I leave? You have to be led by the Holy Spirit. You can't just pick up and leave because you got your feelings hurt or your life is tough. Okay, for example, here in 1 Corinthians, it says right here in 1 Corinthians 7:15, it says, if an unbeliever wants to depart, let him go. See, if the unbeliever wants to depart, let him go. It doesn't say I need to leave. It says, let him go, because the Lord wants us to live in peace. Okay, so if your husband says to you, I've had it with you, I'm out of here, you have to let that person go. But only God can tell you to stay or to leave. God's not telling me to leave.
Okay, so if the unbeliever wants to go, he can go.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, if the unbeliever wants to leave, then you'd let him depart.
Okay. Okay.
And ladies, don't ever let anybody give you an ultimatum. Choose, it's either me or God. We don't do ultimatums. If someone is saying that to you, then you have to let them go. Because what's an ultimatum? It's a warning. Somebody's giving you a warning. It's a demand. They're demanding something of you. So if they tell you choose me or choose God, I'm choosing God. Because eventually that man is going to find something else to give you an ultimatum about. Usually.
And he's got a spirit of jealousy on him. He, for whatever reason, jealous over whatever you're doing, whether it's your church, whether it's your friends, whatever.
That's my husband. He doesn't want to come to church, but I believe he's upset or gets jealous when I'm in church or doing my work at the church and volunteering. That's right. It's a jealous spirit on him. He doesn't want to join me, but he doesn't want me to do it. He doesn't keep me from it. That's the difference. He doesn't tell me I can't.
He probably told you. He knows, Karen.
No. I would be like, no, I don't think so. Because it does say women submit to your husbands, but it has to be a godly submission.
Right.
If the husband is saying you can't go to church, you can't have a Bible, and you can't have friends, that's not a godly submission.
Right. And the husband is supposed to be the head of the household. However, he's supposed to be the spiritual head of the household. If he's not running the household in a spiritual mindset, in a biblical mindset, then no, then that's the wrong covering. It's the wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not a godly covering.
Exact. Yeah.
Like when he told me that he wasn't coming back to church unless I told him I wasn't going down to the altar, that was not a godly submission.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I have to. When you're at church, I'm under Pastor Strayer's covering. Like Joyce Meyer says, when she's up on the altar, she's under God's covering. When she comes down, she's under Dave's covering. Right. So when I'm in the church, I'm under Pastor Strayer's covering, or if I'm ushering, I'm over that head usher's authority. When I step outside, then I'm under my husband's authority. So in the church, Pastor Strayer was calling people to come down to the altar. So I have to submit to that authority. Some people don't agree with that. They say, no, you're under your husband's authority. But when I'm in church, I'm under that authority.
Yeah. Wow.
It's a tough one.
It is.
You have to know who you are in Christ.
And stand on it.
Ladies, do not comply. When you comply, you compromise.
And compromise is never good in any situation. I mean,
never.
There's a positive form of compromise, yes, where you're agreeing to, okay, fine, we'll do this, turkey on this day and burgers the next. Compromise.
That's different.
You don't compromise yourself. You do not compromise yourself. You do not compromise your beliefs. None of that. I believe that's what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, we don't, like you said, if you want to go to Busch Gardens, he wants to go to Disney, you sit down and talk about it. I'm talking about compromising your beliefs in Jesus. I mean, you have to stand on the word.
And that's got to be a difficult feeling. That's got to be, because I'm sure there's parts of you that just wishes he believed the way you believe, and that you were still together in the church. And I, Karen, for one, I believe and pray that for you. And I pray that Dale's heart softens, because I think you all would be such a powerful couple in church. But that's got to be a real hard situation for you. And how do you handle those days? What do you do?
Well, like I said, you have to choose your words wisely. I cannot say things that I know it's almost like living on a bombshell, like you're living on dynamite, because you cannot always say what you want to say, because it usually leads to an argument. Like, that's ridiculous. No matter, okay, I'm going to give you the example, which you and I talked about the other day, about my car needing that part. My car had gone to the shop last Wednesday, and the mechanic said that we need more work done on the car. So when my husband got home, he Googled to see how much this part was going to cost. The mechanic was going to charge us $1,000. My husband said he can get there was 2 parts. He can get each part for $300 each, which would be $600. So we would be saving $400. So I said, oh my gosh, that is so amazing. We get the parts for $300, we'll be saving $700. And he goes, no, that's not what I said. He said, I said they were $300 a piece. But in my mind, I kept saying 300, which of course led into a little argument, because I'm saying 3, he's saying 6. So we go last Saturday to the AutoZone. He buys the 2 parts he needs. He comes out to the car and he says, you're not going to believe this. He said, I got each one of those parts for $150 each. I can't believe that only cost us $300. And I'm like, I felt like the Lord had been telling me 300. I'm confessing that, which turned into an argument, but it ended up being $300. So you see what I have to watch, and I can't say, oh my gosh, under my breath I did. I'm like, thank you, Jesus, we just saved $700. But to him, you have to choose your words carefully, because he doesn't the brick wall.
I just still have to believe. I just still believe, and maybe I'm just one of these hopeless people, but I still believe that that's like a drip drip method, where God's like showing little things. Boop, he hears you say 300 and it becomes 300, and it's going to take a whole lot of drip drip drips to break through the wall. But I just believe that's just a drip from God. I really do.
I pray you're right, Valerie. I'm standing on that. That's God's way of showing me, see, let him see that I am working.
Exactly.
He's the type, he has to see it to believe it. Like doubting Thomas.
Oh yeah.
He had to show him his hands.
Yes. Let me put my fingers in the holes. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. He has to see it. I, on the other hand, I believe in faith.
But that's because, and don't you, when you agree, a lot of time, because the faith we do have faith without seeing, right? Is what I say, that faith without seeing. But I think because we have seen so many little kisses from God, that we have more faith, because we know what God can do, and he's not a person. So he, what he did for them, that he'll do for you. And that's one of the things I love, how our faith grows. And I think he enjoys blessing his children. I really do.
He does. Oh my gosh. Even with the front parking spot, it doesn't even have to be a big thing. But the key is to give thanks.
Yes.
You have to recognize that.
Yeah. So let's say someone's sitting out here right now listening, and they're between a rock and a hard place. They just don't know, like, oh my gosh, they love the person they're with so much, but there's just such a disconnect when it comes to religion, not religion, but a relationship with God, and and everything, and they're not ready to throw the towel in yet. What would your advice be?
Well, like I've said, if a lot of people think that once they get the ring on their finger, and once they get married and say the I do's, that the people are going to be, and I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer, but if you are really on fire for the Lord, and the person you're with is not, that can bring you down to that. The Bible says we cannot be unequally yoked. Okay, so like Jesus hung out with sinners all the time, but he was infecting them. Okay. If that person is infecting you, that's when you start compromising. Let's say that your boyfriend wants to go out every Saturday night and go to a bar and sit at a bar and drink. They drink for 7, 8, whatever, how many hours. That, if that is against your belief and you're doing it to make that person happy, that is not a God divine, that's not a God divine appointment. It's not God, it's not divine connection. So I would say, if you're willing to compromise your belief, unless God is directing you to stay in that, that's up to each person individually, Val. I personally would not encourage people to do that. I would not encourage people to live that way.
Right, right.
I mean, if they're truly on fire for the Lord.
Now let's try another snenario.
Okay.
Let's say you have a couple and they love the Lord, they know Jesus. They're different levels of their walk. One's walk might be deeper than another. One backslides often, let's say, or one's really on fire and the other one hasn't caught up yet. What, with everything that you've lived through and gone through, what would you suggest in that situation?
Okay, well, the Bible tells us we know them by their fruits. Okay, so let's say a person, he has no love, no joy, no peace. There's no peace there. There's no joy there. And you're the one that's like, woohoo, I mean, you are on fire for the Lord. I want to go to church. I want to be there every Sunday, every Thursday night. And the man is saying, you know, I really don't want to do that. So now the woman may compromise and say, okay, well, if you're not going, I'm not going with you either. You see what I'm saying? So if that's okay with you, if you're fine, like my husband doesn't come to church, he stays home. If I was single right now, I personally would not date somebody that says to me, well, you can go ahead and go yourself. I really don't want to go. Is that what you want? Do you want to go by yourself? Do you want to go every place by yourself? Because then you're not equal, you're not there. How do I explain that? You really need to be together. I mean, you both need to go to church together. You can't, that goes back to compromising. Okay, so you're not going to come with me tonight. So, okay, I guess I'll just stay home with you. Okay, I want to go to church. You don't want to go. So now the enemy is going to say to you, are you really going to leave your husband home alone tonight? Don't you think that maybe you should stay here with him? So it's almost like now he's pulling you down rather than you pulling him up.
Right, right.
And that goes back to the compromise. When you comply, you compromise. But like you said, everybody's at a different level.
Right.
Some people start off as baby Christians. It may take them 5 years to get on fire. Some people may never catch on fire, but they go to church with you every week. Is he reading his Bible with you? Are you doing Bible study together? Are you doing things together, or are you doing things alone? That's the key. Do you want to just do things alone, or do you want to do it as a couple?
And that's a really good point that you make, because you think about it, when you're a couple, I mean, obviously you might have some different separate interests and things like that, and then together interests and things. But one of the biggest things, your foundation, your relationship with the Lord, that to me needs to be so strong together.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
exactly what you're saying, exactly true and correct, because you're right. Otherwise you compromise, because as women, and maybe not all women, but some women, if the husband stays home, the women might be feeling like, oh, you know, I feel kind of bad, he's home, I'll go this one time, and then you come home and then he gives you attitude, oh, you know, things like that. So what you're slowly doing is compromising not just yourself, but you're compromising your walk. And if God's got something for you to do, and a purpose and a plan for your life, but you know he has a purpose and a plan for everyone,
yes, ma'am,
stopping and hindering and stunting your growth and stopping your walk.
See, that depends on how on fire you are for the Lord, because I'll give you an example. I'm at church every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. Thursdays, I answer phones from 12 to 4:30. So I leave my house every Thursday at 11:30. I don't get home on Thursday nights till 9:30. Because being a leader, you're down at the altar, you're praying for people. Almost every single Thursday night, like clockwork, when I walk in the door, something sets him off. So he's upset now because I've been gone all day. I'm coming home on fire. I just left church. Oh my gosh. You walk in the door and he always manages to say something that's, okay, honey, I just walked in the door. Can't you just not start? He always has something because, like you said before, he's jealous. He's upset.
Yeah.
I'm part of the jail ministry. He doesn't want me going over to the jail. I'll come home. I'll be on fire, man. Them girls were awesome today. And I walk in the house. Oh my gosh, those girls were awesome today. First thing out of his mouth, I told you I don't want you going there. I don't want to hear about that. So you can't share anything because he doesn't want me going over to Land O'Lakes. I've been doing this since 2016. They shut us down for 3 years, right? Now we're back. And that's my passion right now. I love working with those ladies over at Land O'Lakes. So when I get home, I'm all excited because you see salvations, you see girls crying, you see them happy. And I'll walk in the door and every time the Lord will say to me, don't go in there and start. You know, he doesn't want you there. But how can you hide that stuff?
Mm-hmm.
You can't.
I know. That's why, part of me thinks like, bubble over anyway and say something anyway, or call a girlfriend, chat about it with a girlfriend so he can hear it, that's part of the right way to do it.
But see, that starts the argument.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. Plus, with being a leader at the church, I get phone calls. I mentor so many of the girls at the church, Valerie. I mean, they'll call me all hours of the day, the night. He doesn't want me doing that either. And I'm like, no, that is part of my ministry.
Mm-hmm.
I encourage the ladies to call. If people are calling me or when they call you, the Lord put us on their heart. They don't just pick up the phone and call me. The Lord is saying to them, give Karen a call.
Right.
I meant, like I said, the Lord has laid so many awesome people on my heart, but he doesn't like that. So ladies, if that's something you have a passion for and your husband doesn't like that, or your boyfriend, it's not going to change down the road.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Why would you think that's going to change? I mean, you can pray it does.
Right.
I can change anybody.
He can. They got to want it. They
have to want it.
Oh my goodness.
So are you going to please your husband or are you going to please God?
And then you're making that choice.
Only you can make that choice.
Difficult choice.
And a lot of times ladies will say, then why are you still in that relationship? Because the Lord didn't tell me to leave.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He didn't tell me to leave. Mm-hmm. I can't just walk out the door. I can't. I mean, I took my vows seriously. Mm-hmm. When I got married. And then people will say, well, how can you marry somebody if you were unequally yoked? Well, when you're Catholic,
right,
you don't know you're unequally yoked until you get born again.
Right. And as a reminder, you were Catholic, he was Lutheran.
That's correct.
Both, nothing against any religion out there at all.
No.
It's ritualistic and repetitive, and you go, you do, you say, and you leave, and you do it every week and everything like that. So, but when you get out of that style and you get into a relationship, a deep relationship with Jesus Christ, and you understand all of that, it just like opens your eyes.
Right.
And it's two entirely different levels of commitment. That's how
absolutely. Like I said, I personally cannot compromise my beliefs. I won't compromise my beliefs. And I just have to be very careful what I say and do because I know what pushes these buttons.
Yes, yes. And and the enemy loves that strife. The enemy
Oh,
loves
yeah.
to come between marriages. He wants to come between friendships. He wants to come between family, anything relational. He wants to
Yes.
come between that and create discord, create division, disunity. And
Right.
because wherever he can break a tie or break a cord or create dissension or disunity or anything like that, that
Mhm.
he succeeds. Because
Absolutely.
where two or more together, he is. And it says in Ecclesiastes, a cord of three strands is not easily broken. Your husband, God, when you
Right.
have something like that. But if the enemy can sever any sort of relationship or
Hmm.
create any sort of guise where it's, distorts and distracts, that's,
Right.
and especially in these end times, he is, instead of going after big congregations, he'll little at a time. He'll go after
Yeah.
these kids, these children, this marriage, this person, this pastor, this, break it down little at a time.
Yes. But if you don't know the word, you don't even know he's doing that,
Right.
because he's sneaky. He's slimy. He's the father of lies. So if
Mhm.
you don't know the Bible, you don't know how to come against that. We have the authority to come against that.
Yeah.
Luke 10:19, it says, come against that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
Exactly.
God gave us, when you look at the armor covers the front. There's no armor in the back, because you're not supposed to be running, right? You face your giants head on. I don't turn around and run the other way. I'm focused. I hit him straight on. Look at David and Goliath. You can't, there's no armor on your back. God does not want us to run from our problems. We have to face them head on. I don't turn around and run. I'm sorry. And he knows how far to push me.
Mm-hmm.
Because, a couple of times he said to me, me or God. And I'm like, you don't even want to go there. But you know how many women I know that have chose the man and he ended up leaving anyway? What man that really loves you would give you that ultimatum?
Exactly. Exactly. Good point. Good point.
Who, if he really loves you, why would you have to make a choice? He knows you're going to choose God first.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you say, okay, forget God, I won't go back to church, I'm staying with you, next week he's going to have something else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So don't run.
Right. Oh my God.
Goodness gracious.
You're just wonderful. You are so wonderful. Now, what kind of nuggets you got for our ladies? What kind of nuggets that you can leave our beautiful women and men too? I know that men tune in also. What kind of
Oh,
nuggets
yes.
do you want to
This
leave?
can work either way.
Mhm.
Either way. Well, the one, like I've been saying all along, is the one, do not be unequally yoked.
Mhm.
We definitely do not want to be unequally yoked. And if it's okay with Valerie, do you care if I quote that or if I read
Right
that
ahead.
real quick?
Go ahead. I'm good. I'm good. You got time.
Okay. It says here in 2 Corinthians 6:14, it says, do not be unequally yoked together with an unbeliever, for what fellowship has righteousness with lawlessness? And what communion has light with darkness? And 15 is, to me, this is amazing. It says, and what accord has Christ with Belial, Belial, Belial? Because it's saying here that Belial is one of many names for Satan.
Mm, mm.
Okay. And so what do you have in common with an unbeliever? Because we're light, we're the salt, we're the light of the earth, we're like their darkness.
Mhm.
So that's one scripture I'm quoting, 2 Corinthians 6:14, do not be unequally yoked. The next one I have is get off the fence. The Lord has been talking to me all week about telling the girls to get off the fence, because the fence belongs to Satan.
Mm.
When you're on the fence, what is that? You're compromising. James 1:8 says, do not be double-minded. So now you have one foot in the kingdom and one foot in the world. So now you're straddling that fence. Get off the fence. And the third one is do not ever let anyone give you an ultimatum.
Right.
Those are my nuggets. Do not be unequally yoked, get off the fence, and do not ever take an ultimatum.
I love it. I love it. Well, the fence, like you were saying, is, I understand how people can find themselves on the fence where they're like, oh my gosh, they're not ready to say goodbye to this person and they're still hoping that they change. And they still love the Lord. And we understand, you give things time and whatnot, but if it's repetitive behavior and you don't see it changing, light and dark cannot coexist. So it doesn't work that way. But that's a personal decision. You've got to bring that to the Lord, and that's a personal decision. Compromise, we've talked about that. That's never really a good thing. You don't compromise your values. You don't compromise your self-respect, none of that.
No, that's a big one when people want to compromise.
Mm-hmm.
I personally do not compromise. I just don't. I know what I believe, and I'm standing on my beliefs, because we all have to face Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he's either going to say, well done, good and faithful servant, or depart from me, I don't know you. I don't want to hear that one.
I know. I don't want to hear that either.
Mm-mm.
No. And it says in the Bible, I can't remember what verse it is, but we will be held, we all held accountable.
We're all accountable
For every deed, every thought, every word we spoke, every thought we had, and every deed that we did. We're held accountable. And so I would like my list of accountability to be longer. I try to be better every day, but think about it. If you're living for the Lord, if you're living for what is right, if you're living for what is right, then I pray for you that the man right beside you is living the same way.
Absolutely.
Man or woman, whoever's in your life, is living the same way, because that right there is one strong bond that cannot be broken.
James 3:1 says we all will if teachers will be held at a higher accountability.
Yes.
That's James 3:1 says that we will be held at a higher accountability. Even right now, talking to the women, I don't want to say anything that the Lord has not already showed me, told me. I'm not telling you anything I have not walked through. Because you can't tell somebody something if you've never done it. I mean, I've been doing this for 51 years, and I tell ladies all the time, honey, you're not telling me anything I've never seen or heard or been through. I mean,
I know
I've seen it and heard it all.
Your testimony is so valuable, and I am so glad that you came on and you shared it with us, because I see more and more often where couples are so unequally yoked, and we're all believing, oh, it's going to change, it'll get better, and this will happen, that will happen. And let me tell you, that's a long, rough road. You really want to be on that. Think twice.
That is a long, long road. It's a long road. I'm not saying he's not a good man. I'm just saying we don't have the same beliefs.
Yeah.
Some people may think, well, okay, I'm a Christian, he's not. Okay, that's between you and God.
Yeah.
I can't. And if you're in a marriage and the Lord's telling you to leave, by all means. But if he's telling you to stay, you have to be.
Because the Lord knows, he sees the end from the beginning. So he knows what's coming.
He knows what's coming.
Right.
Well, I really thank you for having me, Val. This has been awesome.
Thank you so much for being my guest. And I tell you, I'm going to be praying for you and Dale every day, because I really, really believe in my heart that at some point this is all going to turn around. And what an amazing, powerful testimony that both of you will have.
That's what I pray for. That he can one day say, I was a fool.
Yes. And you know what? Not. I'm believing it. I'll turn around. I'm believing that. And, Karen, I want to thank you for your boldness. I want to thank you for taking the time to be real and be raw and come and share your testimony with us, because a lot of women need to, and men too, need to hear this, because some of us don't know how to navigate that. We don't know how to navigate being in a relationship where we are unequally yoked, or where we feel this way and they're believing another way, like, oh, well, they got crystals over there and Buddha, and nothing against anything, but it's not what you believe. So how is that?
No.
What's that going to look like? How's that going to work? Think about it,
Right, exactly.
Mhm.
I just, God bless anyone that's listening, and they ever have any questions, they want to meet up with me, I would be glad to talk to anybody.
I know, you're
I have,
wonderful.
I have no problem sharing my testimony.
Thank you for that. And thank you for being bold and stepping up. And I mean, you can find Karen here on Facebook at Karen Richard.
Mhm.
And also you'll get to see, if you're coming in at the tail end of this testimony, this interview, you can hit the replay and watch it again. It'll also be uploaded later on my YouTube channel by the same name, which is Hope Defined Me. And I thank you so much. You can give me a little time to get it uploaded. I'm not too computer savvy, but I'm working on it.
Yes, thank you, Val. You're
Oh,
awesome.
oh, I love you so much. Thank you for being on, and thank you everyone that joined us today. And please share, like, and share this interview, this video, and catch the
Mhm.
replay as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.